The mining station orbited a dead moon in the Kepler system, its metal hull gleaming dully against the star-speckled void. Captain Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching the steady stream of cargo haulers ferry precious metals back to Earth. 3 years of operation, and Outpost Meridian had become humanity's most profitable deep space venture. Contact on long-range sensors, Communications Officer Martinez called from his station. Unknown vessel approaching from the asteroid belt. Sarah turned, her boots clicking against the deck plating. The bridge of Meridian was cramped but efficient, designed for function over comfort. Banks of monitors displayed mining operations, defensive systems, and, now a blinking red dot that represented their uninvited guest. Classification? Sarah asked, settling into the captain's chair. Nothing in our databases, Martinez replied, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. Hull configuration suggests it's not human-built. Length approximately 200 meters, energy signature unlike anything we've encountered. Sarah's jaw tightened. First contact protocols had been drilled into every deep space commander, but the reality of facing an unknown alien vessel sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Earth's expansion into the outer systems had been peaceful so far, with no signs of intelligent life beyond ancient ruins on dead worlds. Red alert. Bring defensive systems online and signal the mining fleet to maintain safe distance, Sarah ordered. Klaxons wailed throughout the station as personnel rushed to battle stations. Prep the diplomatic package in case they're friendly. The alien ship closed distance with unsettling grace, its sleek hull reflecting no light. As it drew nearer, details became visible through the station's powerful telescopes. The vessel resembled a massive blade, its edges sharp enough to cut starlight itself. Geometric patterns covered its surface, glowing with soft purple luminescence. Incoming transmission, Martinez announced. Audio and visual. Sarah straightened her uniform jacket. On screen. The main display flickered to life, revealing the interior of what could only be the alien bridge. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The being facing them stood nearly 7 feet tall, her form humanoid but clearly not human. Pale blue skin stretched over powerful muscle, and silver hair cascaded past shoulders encased in form-fitting armor. Most striking were her eyes, luminous violet orbs that seemed to pierce through the screen directly into Sarah's soul. When the alien spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to command. The universal translator, hastily activated, rendered her words in crisp English with only the slightest delay. I am Kalara Valfanis, Hunter Prime of the Third Fleet, voice of the Eternal Dominion. Her gaze swept across the human bridge crew with barely concealed disdain. You pathetic creatures have trespassed in sovereign territory of the Dominion. Your presence here is an insult that demands satisfaction. Sarah exchanged glances with her senior staff. Lieutenant Commander James Park, her tactical officer, had his hand hovering over the weapons console. Chief Engineer Rosa Delgado monitored power distribution, ready to reroute energy to shields at a moment's notice. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Mining Consortium, Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. We weren't aware this system was claimed territory. If there's been a misunderstanding, we're willing to discuss territorial boundaries through diplomatic channels. Kalara's laugh was like breaking glass. Diplomacy? You insects speak of diplomacy while strip mining sacred worlds? She gestured toward the mining operations visible through the station's windows. This moon holds the graves of my ancestors. Your machines defile their eternal rest. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. Their geological surveys had identified no signs of current habitation, but ancient burial sites could easily be missed by standard sensors. The legal and ethical implications made her stomach clench. We had no knowledge of any burial sites, Sarah said. If we've inadvertently disturbed sacred ground, we can relocate our operations and discuss appropriate reparations. Reparations? Kalara's eyes blazed brighter. The only reparation for such desecration is blood. I challenge your strongest warrior to single combat. When I claim victory, your pathetic species will flee this system and never return. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Sarah felt the weight of her crew's stares, their futures hanging on her next words. Standard first contact protocols had no provisions for alien dueling customs. "And if our champion wins?" Sarah asked. Kalara's expression shifted to one of genuine surprise, as if the possibility of defeat had never occurred to her. "Impossible. But, if by some miracle your warrior proves worthy, the Dominion will grant your species passage rights through this sector. You may continue your mining under Dominion oversight." Lieutenant Commander Park leaned close to Sarah's ear. "Captain, with respect, this is insane. We should contact Earth Command and let the diplomats handle this." Sarah nodded slowly, but her mind was already racing through the implications. Earth Command was 6 weeks away by the fastest courier ship. In that time, the Kalara could summon reinforcements or simply destroy the mining station. The crew of Meridian numbered barely 300 souls, and their defensive capabilities were designed to deter pirates, not fight alien warships. "What are the terms of this combat?" Sarah asked. Kalara straightened, clearly pleased that the humans were taking her challenge seriously. "Hand-to-hand combat in the arena of my choosing. No weapon save what the warrior carries in their body and mind. Combat continues until one yields or dies. These are the ancient laws that even the Dominion Emperor cannot override. I need time to consider this proposal and consult with my crew," Sarah said. "You have one rotation of this moon," Kalara replied. "Choose your champion wisely, human. I have never been defeated in single combat. I have claimed the lives of warriors from 17 different species across the galaxy. Your death will be swift, I promise you that mercy." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen, her mind reeling from the encounter. In the space of 10 minutes, humanity's first contact with alien intelligence had devolved into a challenge to mortal combat. "Captain," Martinez said quietly, "the alien vessel is maintaining position at 1,000 kilometers. They're not taking any aggressive action, but their weapons systems are powered." Sarah nodded absently. She looked around the bridge at her senior staff, dedicated professionals who had followed her to the edge of known space in search of resources to fuel humanity's expansion. Now their lives hung in the balance because of an ancient burial ground they never knew existed. "Senior staff meeting in conference room A in 10 minutes, Sarah announced. "And, someone get me everything our xenoarchaeology database has on burial customs and warrior cultures." As the crew scattered to their tasks, Sarah remained in her chair, staring out at the alien warship. Somewhere aboard that vessel, a 7-foot-tall warrior was probably preparing for combat, confident in her abilities honed across multiple star systems and countless battles. The conference room was cramped, with barely enough space for the 8 senior officers around the scratched metal table. The walls displayed tactical readouts and mining surveys, but everyone's attention focused on the central holographic projector showing Kalara's ship. "Options," Sarah said without preamble. "We could try to run," suggested Chief Navigator Williams, a thin man whose hands never stopped moving over his tablet. "Jump to hyperspace before she can react." Lieutenant Commander Park shook his head. "Her ship's energy readings suggest faster-than-light capability superior to ours. If she wanted to chase us down, she could." "What about fighting?" asked Security Chief Thompson, a former Marine whose scarred hands spoke of combat experience. "Our defensive grid could give her ship trouble." Chief Engineer Delgado pulled up power distribution charts on her tablet. "The station's shields and weapons are designed for asteroid deflection and pirate deterrent. Against that monster out there? We might last 30 seconds in a direct engagement." Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the station's chief medical officer and closest thing they had to a xenobiologist, cleared her throat. "I've been analyzing the video of this Kalara character. Her bone density appears significantly higher than human normal, and her muscle structure suggests strength levels at least 3 times baseline human capacity. Add to that her reach advantage and probable combat experience. So we can't run and we can't fight," Sarah summarized grimly. "That leaves accepting the challenge." "Who would we send?" asked Park. "Thompson has the most combat training, but against an opponent like that." All eyes turned to the security chief, who grimaced. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I'm 53 years old and haven't seen real action in 15 years. If this alien is everything she appears to be, I'd be slaughtered. Sarah's mind churned through possibilities. The station's crew included former military personnel, civilian contractors, and technical specialists. None of them were warriors in the sense that Kalara represented professional killers trained from birth for combat. There might be another way, Dr. Reeves said slowly. I've been thinking about her statement that combat continues until one party yields or dies. She seemed very specific about those terms. Meaning? Sarah prompted. Meaning the challenge isn't necessarily about fighting to the death. If we can find a way to make her yield, we win without casualties. How do you make a 7-foot alien warrior yield when she's probably faced every combat technique in the galaxy? Williams asked skeptically. Dr. Reeves smiled grimly. By doing something she's never encountered before. Something uniquely human. Sarah felt a spark of hope, but it faded quickly as the reality of their situation reasserted itself. Even if they could surprise Kalara somehow, they were still talking about putting a human life at risk against an opponent who had killed warriors from 17 different species. The mining crews, said Chief Engineer Delgado suddenly. We've got some tough people down there. Rock breakers who work in zero-G and hard vacuum. Former asteroid miners who've survived blowouts and equipment failures that would kill most people. Sarah nodded slowly. The deep space mining industry attracted a particular type of person, individuals comfortable with danger, isolation, and the constant threat of death. Many of them came from military backgrounds or harsh frontier worlds where survival was never guaranteed. Get me a list of personnel with combat experience or relevant physical training, Sarah ordered. Include psychological profiles and any information about their ability to handle extreme stress. Captain, Park said quietly, are we really going to go through with this? Send one of our people to probable death because some alien warrior has hurt feelings about her ancestors? Sarah looked around the table at her senior staff, seeing her own doubts and fears reflected in their faces. They had signed up for deep space mining, not interstellar warfare or gladiatorial combat. The way I see it, we have 3 choices, Sarah said finally. We can try to run and probably get blown out of space. We can try to fight and definitely get blown out of space. Or we can accept the challenge and hope that human ingenuity can find a way to survive what appears to be an impossible situation. There is a 4th option, Dr. Reeves said quietly. I could go through our medical files and see if anyone has unusual physical capabilities. Genetic quirks, enhanced reflexes, anything that might give us an edge. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were talking about sending someone to fight for not just their own life, but the lives of everyone on the station. Do it, Sarah said. Compile a list of candidates and their relevant qualifications. We have. She checked her chronometer, 18 hours before Kalara expects an answer. As the meeting broke up, Sarah remained seated, staring at the tactical display. Somewhere in the mining tunnels below, or in the crew quarters, or working the night shift in the processing centers, was the person who would have to face an alien warrior in single combat. The weight of that knowledge pressed down on her shoulders like the gravity of a dead world. Outside the conference room windows, Kalara's ship hung in space like a silver dagger pointed at humanity's heart. Sarah wondered what the alien warrior was thinking as she waited for an answer. Did she feel confidence? Anticipation? Or something else entirely? One thing was certain, in 18 hours, humanity would either find a way to survive its first encounter with hostile alien intelligence, or Sarah Chen would have the distinction of being the captain who lost humanity's first interstellar war before it even began. The mining station hummed with nervous energy as word of the challenge spread through the crew quarters and workstations. Sarah had made the decision to be transparent about their situation, knowing that rumors and half-truths would be more damaging than the harsh reality they faced. In the hydroponics bay, Maintenance Chief Marcus Webb was explaining the situation to a group of off-duty miners when his tablet chimed with an emergency message. His face paled as he read the summons to report to the captain's ready room immediately. Marcus had served 8 years in the Colonial Marines before taking a civilian position with the mining consortium. His record showed 3 tours on frontier worlds, 2 commendations for valor, and 1 incident that had ended his military career, a bar fight on New Damascus that had left 3 men hospitalized and Marcus with a dishonorable discharge. He found Captain Chen waiting for him in her private office, a cramped space filled with mining reports and stellar charts. Dr. Reeves sat across from the captain's desk, a thick medical file open in front of her. "Mr. Webb," Sarah began, "Dr. Reeves has brought some interesting information to my attention regarding your military service and subsequent medical history." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. His past wasn't something he discussed with co-workers, and he had hoped it would stay buried in personnel files that nobody ever read. "Ma'am, if this is about the incident on New Damascus, it's not about the fight," Dr. Reeves interrupted. "It's about what happened after. Your medical records show some unusual healing patterns and bone density measurements that caught my attention." Sarah activated a holographic display showing Marcus's medical scans. "According to these files, you suffered multiple fractures during that altercation, including a shattered femur and 3 broken ribs. But you were back to full duty in half the normal recovery time." "I heal fast," Marcus said slowly, unsure where the conversation was heading. "Always have. My grandmother used to say it was good genetics." Dr. Reeves leaned forward. "Mr. Webb, have you ever been tested for genetic markers associated with enhanced human capabilities? Specifically, mutations that affect bone density, muscle fiber efficiency, or neurological processing speed?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about genetic enhancement programs during the colony wars, secret projects that had created supersoldiers with abilities beyond normal human limits. Most of those programs had been shut down after the war ended, their subjects scattered across the galaxy or classified into oblivion. "No ma'am," Marcus said carefully. "Just regular military physicals." Sarah and Dr. Reeves exchanged glances. The captain's expression was grim as she activated another display, this one showing Kalara's ship hanging in space like a threat made manifest. "Marcus, I'm going to be direct with you," Sarah said. "We have 18 hours to choose a champion to face that alien warrior in single combat." According to her own statements, she's killed warriors from 17 different species and never been defeated. "We need someone who can at least survive long enough to find a way to make her yield." The pieces clicked into place in Marcus's mind, and he felt his stomach drop. "You want me to fight her?" "We want you to consider it," Dr. Reeves said gently. "Your physical capabilities, combined with your combat experience, make you our best candidate. But, I won't lie to you, the odds are not good." Marcus stared at the image of the alien ship, imagining the 7-foot warrior inside preparing for battle. He thought about his crewmates, the 300 people whose lives hung in the balance because of an ancient burial ground and wounded alien pride. "What happens if I say no?" he asked. "We find someone else," Sarah replied. "Or we try to run and probably get blown out of space. Or we try to fight and definitely get blown out of space." The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a familiar burden. He had felt it before, on frontier worlds where split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death for his squad. The dishonorable discharge had stripped away his rank and uniform, but it hadn't changed what he was at his core, a protector, someone who stood between civilians and the things that wanted to hurt them. "I need to know everything you can tell me about this Kalara," Marcus said finally. "Her fighting style, her species physiology, anything that might give me an edge." Sarah's expression mixed relief with regret. She was grateful to have found someone willing to face the challenge, but she knew she was potentially sending a good man to his death. "Dr. Reeves has been analyzing the video footage," Sarah said. "What can you tell us about our opponent?" Dr. Reeves activated another holographic display, this one showing a 3-dimensional reconstruction of Kalara based on their brief video contact. "Based on her bone structure and muscle definition, I estimate her species evolved in a high-gravity environment. Her movements suggest enhanced reflexes and possibly improved spatial awareness." "What about weaknesses?" Marcus asked. "Unknown," Dr. Reeves admitted. "Her armor appears to be form-fitting rather than heavily protective, which suggests either overconfidence or reliance on natural toughness. Her fighting stance in the video shows classical training, formal, disciplined, probably based on established techniques. Marcus nodded slowly, his mind already shifting into tactical mode. He had faced opponents with superior strength and reach before, both in military combat and in the underground fighting circuits he had frequented after his discharge. The key was never to fight your opponent's fight, find their weaknesses and exploit them ruthlessly. I'll need access to the station's gymnasium and any combat training equipment we have, Marcus said. And I want to study every second of that video footage until I know how she breathes. Done, Sarah said. Marcus, thank you. I know this isn't what you signed up for when you took this job. Marcus stood, his scarred hands clenched at his sides. Ma'am, I've been running from my past for 3 years. Maybe it's time to stop running and face something head on. As Marcus left the captain's ready room, Sarah turned to Dr. Reeves. Do you really think he has a chance? The doctor's expression was thoughtful. Honestly? I don't know. But, if anyone from our crew can survive what's coming, it's him. There's something about his genetic markers that doesn't quite fit normal human baselines. His reflexes test in the 99th percentile, his bone density is off the charts, and his healing factor is genuinely unusual. Sarah nodded, but her stomach remained twisted with anxiety. In 16 hours, Marcus Webb would face a warrior who had carved her way across the galaxy, leaving a trail of defeated opponents in her wake. The fate of humanity's first contact with alien intelligence rested in the hands of a disgraced Marine with a mysterious past and a talent for violence. Outside her windows, Kalara's ship waited with predatory patience, its alien hull reflecting starlight like a blade eager for blood. The station's gymnasium had been hastily converted into a training facility, with every piece of exercise equipment pushed to the walls to create an open space. Marcus stood in the center, wearing simple workout clothes, as Dr. Reeves attached monitoring sensors to his arms and chest. I want to establish baseline measurements, she explained, checking the readouts on her tablet. Heart rate, reaction time, muscle response, anything that might help us understand what we're working with. Marcus nodded, his attention focused on the holographic display showing Kalara's ship. 12 hours remained before he would face the alien warrior, and he intended to use every minute preparing for what might be his final battle. Begin with basic movement patterns, Dr. Reeves instructed. Throw some punches, kicks, whatever feels natural. Marcus moved through a series of combat forms, his body falling into familiar rhythms learned through years of training and violence. The monitoring equipment tracked every motion, building a digital profile of his capabilities. Captain Chan entered the gymnasium as Marcus was finishing a sequence of defensive maneuvers. Her expression was tense, the weight of command evident in every line of her face. Any word from Earth Command? Marcus asked, pausing in his routine. Sarah shook her head. The message won't reach them for another 3 weeks. We're on our own. She watched him practice for a moment. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Like a man preparing to fight something that shouldn't exist, Marcus replied honestly. But, I've felt that way before. Dr. Reeves looked up from her tablet, frowning at the readouts. Marcus, I need you to hit something. Hard as you can. Marcus approached the heavy bag they had requisitioned from the security training facility. He centered himself, drew back his right fist, and drove it forward with all his strength. The impact echoed through the gymnasium like a gunshot. The heavy bag, rated to withstand impacts from professional fighters, split open along its seams. Sand spilled across the deck plating as the bag swung wildly from its mounting. Dr. Reeves stared at her tablet in disbelief. That impact registered at 4,000 pounds per square inch. That's not humanly possible. Marcus looked at his knuckles, expecting to see blood and bruised bone. Instead, his skin was unmarked, without even a hint of redness from the devastating blow. Well, he said quietly, I guess we know something about my genetics after all. Sarah felt a flutter of hope for the first time since Kalara's challenge. If Marcus possessed enhanced physical capabilities, he might actually have a chance against the alien warrior. We need to test your other capabilities, Dr. Reeves said excitedly. Reflexes, speed, durability, everything. For the next 4 hours, Marcus subjected himself to a battery of tests that pushed his body to its limits. He dodged tennis balls fired from automated launchers at superhuman speeds. He lifted weights that should have been impossible for his size. He endured impacts that would have hospitalized a normal person. With each test, the impossible became routine. Marcus Webb wasn't just an enhanced human, he was something beyond the normal parameters of his species. How is this possible? Sarah asked as they reviewed the data. These capabilities don't show up in standard genetic screening. Dr. Reeves pulled up historical files on her tablet. During the colony wars, there were rumors of black projects. Genetic enhancement programs designed to create super soldiers for operations in hostile environments. Most of the subjects were supposed to have died when the programs were shut down. Marcus sat on a bench, toweling sweat from his face. My grandmother never talked about my parents. Said they died in the war, but she never gave details. After she passed, I enlisted and never looked back. The genetic markers are definitely there, Dr. Reeves continued. Enhanced bone density, modified muscle fibers, accelerated healing factors. But there's something else, neurological modifications that should improve reaction time and spatial awareness. Sarah began pacing the small space. This changes everything. Marcus, you might actually be able to beat this Kalara. Maybe, Marcus said carefully. But, enhanced or not, I'm still just one man. She's been fighting warriors from 17 different species. She knows techniques I've never imagined. Captain Chen's communicator chirped with an incoming message. She activated the device, and Kalara's voice filled the gymnasium. Human Captain, I grow impatient. Has your species produced a champion worthy of facing me in combat? Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus, who nodded firmly. We have selected our champion, Sarah replied. Maintenance Chief Marcus Webb will represent humanity in single combat. Kalara's laughter echoed through the speaker. A maintenance worker? You mock the ancient traditions with such disrespect. Very well, perhaps his death will be instructive for the rest of your pathetic species. What are the specific terms of combat? Marcus asked, stepping closer to the communicator. Ah, the lamb speaks, Kalara said, her voice dripping with disdain. Simple, little human. You will transport to my vessel in 6 hours. Combat will take place in my ship's arena under standard gravitational conditions. No weapons, no armor, no assistance. Fight until one yields or dies. The transmission ended, leaving the 3 humans alone with the weight of what was coming. 6 hours, Dr. Reeves said quietly. That's not much time for additional preparation. Marcus stood, his enhanced muscles moving with fluid precision. It's enough. I know what I'm capable of now. That's more than I had yesterday. Sarah watched him with a mixture of admiration and regret. She was sending a good man into what amounted to gladiatorial combat against an opponent who had never been defeated. The fact that Marcus was genetically enhanced offered hope, but it also raised questions about humanity's past that she wasn't sure she wanted answered. I want you to know, Sarah said, that regardless of the outcome tomorrow, you're a hero for taking this risk. The crew will remember what you've done for them. Marcus smiled grimly. Let's just hope they remember it fondly and not as the story of how humanity's first contact went horribly wrong. The next few hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Marcus ate a carefully planned meal designed to optimize his enhanced metabolism. Dr. Reeves conducted last-minute scans to ensure his body was functioning at peak efficiency. The bridge crew ran diagnostics on the shuttle that would transport him to Kalara's ship. As the appointed time approached, Marcus found himself alone in his quarters, staring at a photograph of his grandmother. She had been a tough woman who had survived the colony wars and raised him with stories of heroes who stood against impossible odds. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Captain Chen entered, carrying a small package wrapped in military-grade fabric. I thought you might want this, she said, unwrapping the contents to reveal a combat knife with a worn handle and a blade that had seen serious use. Where did you get this? Marcus asked, recognizing the design as a colonial marine issue weapon. It belonged to Sergeant First Class Michael Webb, Colonial Marines 3rd Battalion, Sarah said quietly. According to the records, he died during the siege of Kepler Station 15 years ago. I thought his grandson might want to carry something of his into battle. Marcus took the knife with reverent hands, feeling the weight of family legacy in the worn grip. His father, a man he had never known but whose blood flowed through his veins, carrying genetic modifications that might be the key to humanity's survival. Thank you, Marcus said simply. The shuttle bay was crowded with off-duty personnel who had come to see their champion depart. Marcus walked through their ranks, accepting handshakes and words of encouragement from miners and technicians who had become his family over 3 years of deep space isolation. The shuttle itself was a utilitarian craft designed for short-range transportation between ships and stations. Marcus settled into the pilot's seat, running through pre-flight checks with mechanical precision. Marcus, Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system. Remember, you don't have to win. You just have to survive long enough to find a way to make her yield. Understood, Captain, Marcus replied, his hands steady on the controls. See you on the other side. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the starfield beyond and the predatory shape of Kalara's warship. As Marcus guided his small craft toward the alien vessel, he wondered what previous human champions from lost enhancement programs might have felt in their final moments. The alien ship's docking bay was a study in intimidating architecture. Purple lighting cast everything in an otherworldly glow, while geometric patterns covered every surface. The bay was large enough to hold a dozen shuttles, but Marcus's small craft looked pathetically insignificant in the vast space. As the bay doors sealed behind him, Marcus felt the artificial gravity shift to something heavier than Earth normal. The enhanced bone density that Dr. Reeves had identified would serve him well here. A normal human would already be struggling with the increased gravitational pull. The shuttle's exterior cameras showed figures approaching across the deck. They were clearly of the same species as Kalara, tall, pale-skinned humanoids with violet eyes and silver hair. But, unlike their leader's warrior-bearing, these individuals moved with the purposeful efficiency of ship's crew. Marcus sealed his environmental suit and stepped out of the shuttle, immediately feeling the weight of the heavy gravity. The air was breathable but carried exotic scents that reminded him of ozone and burning metal. One of the crew members approached, speaking in the same language Kalara had used. The universal translator rendered his words in accented English. Follow. The Hunter Prime awaits in the arena. The walk through the ship's corridors was a lesson in alien engineering. Everything was built to a scale slightly larger than human standard, with flowing curves and organic shapes that made the space feel alive. Bioluminescent panels provided lighting, while the walls themselves seemed to pulse with a rhythm that might have been the ship's heartbeat. The arena, when they finally reached it, took Marcus's breath away. It was a circular chamber perhaps 50 meters across, with tiered seating rising toward a domed ceiling. The floor appeared to be made of the same material as the ship's hull, with geometric patterns that glowed softly in the purple lighting. Kalara stood in the center of the arena, no longer wearing the armor she had displayed during their first communication. Instead, she was dressed in form-fitting garments that accentuated her alien physiology while allowing for complete freedom of movement. Her 7-foot frame was pure predatory grace, every line of her body speaking to a lifetime dedicated to the art of combat. So, she said as Marcus approached, the maintenance worker has arrived to meet his death. I confess disappointment. I had hoped your species would produce a more worthy opponent for my final hunt. Final hunt? Marcus asked, stopping 10 meters away from her. Kalara's expression shifted, revealing something that might have been weariness beneath her warrior's facade. I have served the Dominion for 40 cycles, claiming victory in single combat across 17 worlds. This will be my last hunt before I am granted the honor of peaceful retirement. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien ship's atmosphere. He was facing not just a warrior, but a legend preparing for her final performance. The pressure to provide a worthy ending to such a career would make Kalara even more dangerous. You seem young for retirement, Marcus observed, studying his opponent's movements as she began her pre-combat ritual. Young? Kalara laughed, beginning a series of stretching exercises that revealed the deadly flexibility of her enhanced physiology. I have lived 2 of your lifetimes, little human. My body bears the scars of 1,000 battles, and my soul grows weary of dealing death to unworthy opponents. As she moved through her warm-up routine, Marcus catalogued every detail of her physical capabilities. Her reach advantage was significant, but not insurmountable. Her movements spoke of formal training, classical techniques refined through decades of practical application. "Tell me," Kalara said, pausing in her exercises, "what drives a maintenance worker to face certain death? Glory? Duty? Simple stupidity?" Marcus considered the question, feeling the weight of his father's knife against his leg and the genetic legacy flowing through his enhanced bloodstream. "Responsibility," he said finally. "When something threatens the people under your protection, you stand between them and danger. That's what humans do." For the first time since their encounter began, Kalara's expression showed something other than condescension. "Interesting. Your species may be more worthy of respect than I initially believed." She moved to the center of the arena, taking a combat stance that spoke of deadly competence. "Are you prepared to die with honor, human warrior?" Marcus stepped forward, his enhanced muscles coiling with potential energy. Around them, the arena filled with alien crew members who had come to witness their champion's final hunt. The lighting dimmed except for the circle where the two combatants faced each other. "I'm prepared to fight," Marcus replied, falling into a defensive stance learned through years of military combat and refined through underground fighting circuits. "Death is just one possible outcome." Kalara's violet eyes blazed with predatory excitement. "Then, let us begin, and may the worthiest warrior claim victory." The arena fell silent except for the ship's distant heartbeat. Two warriors faced each other across an impossible gulf of species and culture, preparing for a battle that would determine not just their individual fates, but the future relationship between their peoples. Marcus felt his enhanced metabolism shift into combat mode, flooding his system with adrenaline and sharpening his perception to supernatural levels. Time seemed to slow as he watched Kalara's muscles tense for her opening attack. The first moments of combat would be crucial. Kalara expected to face a normal human as strong but limited by biological constraints she had encountered countless times before. She had no idea that the maintenance worker standing before her carried genetic modifications designed to create the ultimate human warrior. As Kalara exploded into motion with inhuman speed, Marcus smiled grimly. It was time to show an overconfident alien what enhanced humanity could accomplish when pushed to its limits. Kalara moved like liquid lightning, her 7-foot frame covering the distance between them in a heartbeat. Her opening strike was a classic overhand blow designed to end the fight immediately, a technique she had probably used to crush dozens of opponents across the galaxy. Marcus saw it coming with crystal clarity, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to track every muscle fiber's movement. At the last possible moment, he shifted sideways, letting the devastating blow whistle past his ear close enough to feel the wind of its passage. The alien warrior's eyes widened in surprise as her fist struck empty air. She had expected to connect with crushing force, to feel bones shatter beneath her knuckles as it had so many times before. Instead, she found herself off balance, committed to an attack against an opponent who was no longer there. Marcus didn't waste the opportunity. His counterattack was a sharp jab to Kalara's exposed ribs, delivered with the full force of his genetically enhanced strength. The impact sounded like a gunshot in the arena's confines. Kalara staggered backward, her violet eyes blazing with shock and something that might have been respect. In 40 cycles of combat, no opponent had ever successfully countered her opening technique. The maintenance worker had not only survived her initial assault, he had drawn first blood. "Impossible," she breathed, her hand moving to her side where a dark bruise was already forming. "Your species should not possess such capabilities." Marcus fell back into his defensive stance, studying his opponent's reaction. "There's a lot about my species you don't understand." The alien crew members in the stands began murmuring among themselves in their native language. Marcus couldn't understand their words, but their tone suggested surprise and growing interest. Their champion's easy victory was becoming an actual contest. Kalara circled him slowly, her movements now cautious and calculating. "You move like a hunter rather than prey, little human. Tell me, are you truly just a maintenance worker?" I fix things, Marcus replied, matching her circular movement. Right now, I'm fixing a misunderstanding between our species. The alien warrior's laugh was sharp and dangerous. Clever words. Let us see if your combat skills match your wit. This time she approached more carefully, testing his defenses with a series of probing attacks. Marcus deflected each strike, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to match her speed while his modified bone structure absorbed impacts that would have shattered normal human limbs. But Kalara was learning with each exchange. Her 40 cycles of combat experience were being brought to bear against his defensive techniques, probing for weaknesses in his guard and patterns in his movement. The first real exchange lasted 30 seconds of lightning-fast strikes, blocks, and counterattacks. When they separated, both warriors were breathing harder, a sheen of perspiration visible on their skin. You have been trained, Kalara observed, wiping a thin line of blood from her lower lip where one of Marcus's punches had connected. This is not the random flailing of an amateur. Marcus rolled his shoulders, working out the impact of several blocked strikes. Even with his enhanced durability, her attacks carried devastating force. Colonial Marines don't mess around with their combat training. Military, Kalara said with satisfaction. That explains much. But I have faced warriors from 17 species, human. Your enhanced capabilities are impressive, but they will not be enough. She attacked again, this time with a combination that showcased the full range of her abilities. High kicks that could have decapitated a normal opponent, strikes delivered with pinpoint accuracy, grappling techniques designed to exploit leverage against stronger foes. Marcus found himself being pushed to his limits. His enhanced genetics allowed him to keep pace with her speed and strength, but her experience was telling. She knew how to read an opponent's intentions, how to set up combinations that forced defensive mistakes. A particularly vicious elbow strike slipped past his guard, catching him in the solar plexus with enough force to drop a normal human. Marcus absorbed the blow and immediately responded with an uppercut that lifted Kalara clean off her feet. The alien warrior landed in a controlled roll, coming up in a defensive crouch. For the first time in the fight, she looked genuinely impressed. Your durability exceeds all projections, she said, touching a bruise that was forming along her jaw. What genetic modifications do you carry? Marcus decided to answer honestly. I don't know the details. My father was part of a military enhancement program during the colony wars. I inherited whatever they did to him. Kalara's expression shifted, showing something that might have been understanding. Ah. A child of war, carrying weapons in your very blood. The Dominion has conducted similar experiments with our own warriors. They resumed circling each other, both now fully aware that this was a more evenly matched contest than either had expected. The alien crew members had fallen silent, watching their champion face an opponent who was proving more resilient than anyone had anticipated. You fight with honor, Kalara said, launching into another complex combination. But honor will not save you when I reveal my true capabilities. The next phase of their battle was conducted at a pace that would have been invisible to normal human perception. Enhanced reflexes met alien speed as the two warriors pushed themselves to their absolute limits. Marcus found himself adapting techniques he had learned in underground fighting circuits, using unconventional angles and dirty tactics that formal military training had taught him to avoid. Against an opponent with superior reach and comparable strength, conventional techniques weren't sufficient. Kalara, for her part, began incorporating combat forms she had learned from other species across the galaxy. Her style shifted fluidly between the flowing movements of aquatic species, the brutal directness of high-gravity world inhabitants, and the precise striking techniques of beings with natural weapons. The fight evolved into a chess match conducted at superhuman speeds. Each warrior adapted to their opponent's strategies, forcing continuous evolution of technique and approach. 20 minutes into the combat, both fighters were showing significant damage. Marcus's enhanced healing factor was working overtime to repair microfractures and tissue damage, while Kalara's alien physiology dealt with impacts that would have been fatal to most species. You surprise me, human, Kalara said during a brief pause in the action. I have not been pushed this hard since my first hunt against the Void Stalkers of Arcturus. Marcus wiped blood from a cut above his eye, his enhanced vision automatically compensating for the impairment. You're not exactly what I expected either. Your people obviously know something about combat training. The Dominion has been perfecting warrior arts for 10,000 cycles, Kalara replied. But, there is something about your species that defies conventional understanding. You fight like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because that's exactly our situation, Marcus said. This is humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. Win or lose, this fight determines how the galaxy sees us. The alien warrior's expression became thoughtful. First contact? Your species has never encountered other forms of intelligent life? You're it, Marcus confirmed. 300 years of space exploration, and you're the first aliens we've met. Kalara was quiet for a long moment, something shifting behind her violet eyes. Then, I have been terribly arrogant. To face the unknown with such courage, perhaps your species possesses warrior virtues that transcend physical capabilities. The admission seemed to energize both fighters. When combat resumed, there was a different quality to their engagement. The deadly intent remained, but underneath was a growing mutual respect. Marcus began incorporating techniques he had seen Kalara use, adapting them to his human physiology and enhanced capabilities. The alien warrior, in turn, started adopting some of his unconventional approaches, finding ways to integrate human tactical thinking into her established combat forms. The arena became a crucible where two very different approaches to warfare were being forged into something new. The watching crew members had begun cheering not for their champion's inevitable victory, but for the quality of combat they were witnessing. 30 minutes into the fight, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed. They were no longer fighting to prove superiority or settle a territorial dispute. This had become a conversation conducted through violence, two warriors sharing everything they knew about the art of combat. You have taught me much, human warrior, Kalara said during another brief pause. Your species' approach to battle is unlike anything in Dominion records. Same here, Marcus replied, feeling a grudging admiration for his opponent's skill and honor. Your people obviously understand that strength without technique is useless. They engaged again, but now the combat had an almost ceremonial quality. Each technique was demonstrated with precision and acknowledged with appropriate respect. They were still fighting with deadly intent, but the fight itself had become a form of cultural exchange. That's when Marcus noticed the subtle change in Kalara's movement patterns. Her strikes were becoming more predictable, her defensive positions slightly less optimal. At first he thought it was fatigue, but then he realized the truth. She was testing him. Not his combat abilities, those had been proven beyond doubt. She was testing his character, his willingness to take advantage of apparent weakness, his honor in the face of opportunity. Marcus made his choice. Instead of exploiting the openings she was offering, he matched his technique to hers, engaging in pure skill versus skill combat without attempting to capitalize on her apparent mistakes. The realization that he had understood and passed her test was visible in Kalara's expression. Her violet eyes blazed with something that might have been triumph. Enough, she said suddenly, stepping back and raising her hands in a gesture of cessation. This combat is complete. Marcus remained in his defensive stance, uncertain whether this was another test or a genuine end to the fighting. Around them, the alien crew members had fallen silent, waiting for their champion's pronouncement. I said this combat is complete, Kalara repeated, her voice carrying absolute authority. The human warrior has proven himself worthy of respect and consideration. Marcus slowly relaxed his stance, still wary of a trick. Does this mean you yield? Kalara's laugh filled the arena, but now it carried warmth rather than mockery. Yield? Little human, I have not been forced to yield in 30 cycles of combat. But neither have I encountered an opponent who showed such honor while possessing the skill to defeat me. The admission sent shock waves through the watching crew. Their undefeated champion had just acknowledged that the human warrior could have claimed victory. I don't understand, Marcus said. If the combat is complete, what happens now? Kalara moved to the center of the arena, her movements formal and ceremonial. Now, warrior Marcus Webb of the humans, you will answer the most important question of this encounter. You have proven your strength and skill beyond doubt. You have demonstrated honor in combat and wisdom in restraint. The question remains, are you a conqueror or a guardian? Marcus felt the weight of not just his own life, but humanity's entire future pressing down on him. This moment would determine whether first contact ended in warfare or cooperation. I'm a protector, Marcus said simply. I fight to defend those who can't defend themselves, not to claim dominion over others. The arena erupted in sounds that the universal translator rendered as approval and celebration. Kalara raised her arms, and the noise gradually subsided. Then, hear the words of Kalara Valthanes, Hunter Prime of the Third Fleet, she announced in a voice that carried to every corner of the arena. The human species has proven itself worthy of respect and alliance. The sacred grounds of our ancestors will remain inviolate, but humanity shall have passage rights through Dominion space as honored guests rather than intruders. Marcus felt his knees weaken with relief. The fight was over, his people were safe, and humanity had gained its first alien ally instead of its first enemy. But, as he looked at Kalara's expression, he realized that the most important conversation was just beginning. The medical bay aboard Kalara's ship was an alien fusion of organic curves and crystalline technology. Marcus sat on what appeared to be a living examination table while strange devices scanned his enhanced physiology with gentle pulses of light. Your species' medical science is impressive, observed Thyran Velkas, the ship's healer, as he examined the rapidly fading bruises on Marcus's torso. These genetic modifications show remarkable integration with your natural biology. Kalara stood nearby, having shed her combat attire for more formal robes that marked her rank within the Dominion hierarchy. The clothing did nothing to diminish her imposing presence, but Marcus had begun to see beyond the warrior exterior to the intelligent individual beneath. The modifications were military in nature, Marcus explained as the scanning devices completed their work. Designed to create soldiers capable of operating in hostile environments across multiple worlds. And yet you work as a maintenance technician, Kalara observed. Your military service ended in disgrace, according to the records your Captain Chan provided. Marcus's jaw tightened at the reminder of his past failures. I made mistakes. People got hurt because I lost control in a civilian environment. The alien healer's attention focused on a particular readout, his violet eyes widening with interest. Fascinating. Your neurological patterns show evidence of artificially suppressed aggression responses. Someone deliberately modified your brain chemistry to reduce combat reflexes. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had always wondered why his enhanced physical capabilities seemed at odds with his generally peaceful temperament. Now he understood, the military enhancement program had included psychological modifications designed to create controllable supersoldiers. They turned you into a weapon, then tried to turn you back into a normal person, Kalara said quietly. No wonder you struggled with civilian life. Your very brain was fighting against its own conditioning. Dr. Thyran made additional notes on his crystalline tablet. The neural inhibitors appear to be breaking down naturally. Combat stress has accelerated the process significantly. Within a few cycles, you will likely experience a return to your original enhanced psychological state. Marcus felt a chill run through his enhanced nervous system. If the inhibitors were failing, would he become the kind of person who started bar fights that sent 3 men to the hospital? Would he lose the careful control he had built over 3 years of civilian life? Is there a way to maintain the psychological modifications? He asked. Kalara's expression showed surprise. You would choose to remain limited rather than claim your full capabilities? I've seen what I'm capable of when I lose control, Marcus replied. Those men on New Damascus didn't deserve what I did to them. The alien warrior was quiet for a long moment, studying his face with intense violet eyes. Tell me about this incident that ended your military career. Marcus hesitated, then decided that honesty had served him well so far. Shore leave on New Damascus. 3 civilians decided to have some fun with a colonial marine. Started getting aggressive with the bartender, then with some of the female patrons. I tried to defuse the situation peacefully. But they escalated, Kalara prompted. They pulled knives. In a crowded bar, with innocent people who could get hurt. Marcus's hands clenched unconsciously as he recalled the memory. The enhanced reflexes kicked in. By the time I regained conscious control, all three were in critical condition and half the bar was destroyed. Dr. Thyron's scanning devices detected the elevated stress response and made soothing sounds. Your reaction was proportional to the threat level. Protecting innocents from armed criminals is hardly a criminal act. The Colonial Marine Corps disagreed, Marcus said bitterly. Enhanced soldiers are supposed to maintain perfect control at all times. My psychological conditioning had degraded enough to allow what they classified as excessive violence. Kalara moved closer, her imposing height forcing Marcus to look up at her. Warrior, you speak of this incident as a failure of character. But, from what you have described, you acted exactly as a protector should. Your enhanced capabilities allowed you to neutralize a threat to innocent lives. I nearly killed 3 people. 3 armed criminals who threatened innocents, Kalara corrected firmly. In Dominion space, such individuals would be fortunate to receive a quick death. The fact that you showed restraint even in combat fury speaks to your warrior's honor. Dr. Thyran looked up from his readings. The psychological modifications your people imposed were not designed to help you control your abilities. They were designed to make you compliant and docile when not actively engaged in military operations. The implications of that statement reverberated through Marcus's enhanced mind. He had always assumed that his post-service struggles were the result of his own failings, his inability to adapt to civilian life like other veterans. You're saying they deliberately crippled me psychologically? Marcus asked. They attempted to create a weapon that could be safely stored when not in use, Dr. Thyran replied. Such modifications are barbaric by Dominion medical standards. A warrior's mind should be whole, not artificially constrained. Kalara's expression darkened with anger. Your military leaders feared their own creations. Rather than trust their warrior's honor, they chose to mutilate their psychological development. The conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the ship's communication system. A voice spoke in the flowing alien language, and Kalara's demeanor immediately shifted to full military alertness. What is it? Marcus asked. Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching this system, Kalara replied grimly. Dominion naval vessels. It appears that word of our encounter has reached higher authorities. Dr. Thyron's scanning devices retracted as he finished his examination. Your physical condition is excellent. The minor injuries from combat are healing at an accelerated rate. However, the psychological transition may prove more challenging. Marcus stood, testing his balance as his enhanced metabolism processed the medical intervention. How long before these ships arrive? 4 hours, Kalara replied. More than enough time to determine whether my decision to grant your species alliance status will be supported by Dominion High Command. The implications were clear. If the approaching fleet disagreed with Kalara's assessment, humanity's first contact could still end in disaster. Marcus thought about the 300 people aboard Outpost Meridian, going about their daily routines unaware that their fate was being decided by alien admirals they had never seen. What can we do to improve the odds? Marcus asked. Kalara's smile was sharp and predatory. We can ensure that Dominion High Command understands exactly what your species represents. Come, there are preparations to make. The journey through the ship's corridors gave Marcus time to process what he had learned in the medical bay. The psychological modifications that had shaped his adult life were artificial constraints, not natural personality traits. The guilt and self-doubt that had driven him to seek isolated work on the frontier were products of military experimentation rather than personal failings. They arrived at what appeared to be a communication center, its organic architecture filled with crystalline displays and holographic projectors. Several crew members worked at stations that seemed to respond to thought as much as physical input. I need to contact Admiral Vex Corin of the 4th Fleet, Kalara announced. The nearest technician activated a complex sequence of controls, and space above the central projector shimmered with building energy. Admiral Vex Corin is known for his traditionalist views regarding contact with primitive species, Dr. Thyran murmured to Marcus. He may not be receptive to arguments about human worthiness. The holographic display stabilized, revealing the bridge of what was obviously a much larger vessel. The figure that appeared was clearly of the same species as Kalara and her crew, but, where she projected deadly grace, he radiated cold authority. His silver hair was longer and elaborately styled, marking him as an individual of significant rank. Hunter Prime Valthanes, the Admiral said without preamble, you have exceeded your mission parameters. Explain. Kalara straightened to full military attention. Admiral, I have encountered a species worthy of alliance consideration. The humans possess warrior virtues that merit dominion respect. One species, 300 individuals on a primitive mining station, Admiral Vexcorin replied dismissively. Hardly sufficient evidence for alliance status. I have read your initial reports, they are strip mining sacred burial grounds. In ignorance, not malice, Kalara countered. When informed of the significance, they immediately offered to cease operations and provide reparations. The Admiral's violet eyes found Marcus through the holographic connection. Is this the primitive who accepted your challenge? He appears unremarkable. Marcus felt a flash of anger at the casual dismissal, but Kalara's slight gesture warned him to remain silent for now. Appearances can be deceiving, Admiral, Kalara said carefully. This individual's combat capabilities exceeded all projections. More importantly, he demonstrated honor and wisdom that suggest his species possesses qualities valued by the Dominion. Combat capabilities? Admiral Vexcorin's interest sharpened. Elaborate. What followed was a detailed tactical analysis of their fight, with Kalara describing Marcus's enhanced abilities and unconventional techniques. The Admiral listened with growing attention, occasionally requesting clarification on specific points. Genetic enhancement on this scale suggests a species with advanced biotechnology, the Admiral observed. Yet their spacefaring capabilities remain primitive. Curious. The enhancements were military in nature, Kalara explained. Created during a period of internal conflict, then abandoned when the war ended. This individual may represent only a small fraction of enhanced humans. Marcus decided it was time to speak. Admiral, with respect, the enhancement program was discontinued because my people feared what they had created. I may be one of the last examples of the technology. Admiral Vexcorin's gaze focused on him with laser intensity. You speak directly to a Dominion admiral without invitation. Either you are foolishly brave or supremely confident in your worth. I speak as someone who has everything to lose, Marcus replied. My people are facing their first contact with alien intelligence. How we handle this encounter will shape humanity's future for generations. The Admiral was silent for several moments, clearly evaluating both Marcus's words and his demeanor. Hunter Prime, you claim this species demonstrates warrior virtues. What evidence supports this assessment beyond a single combat encounter? Kalara activated additional displays, showing tactical analyses of human military history gathered from the mining station's databases. Their species has a documented history of individuals sacrificing themselves for the protection of others. They regularly risk personal safety to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Interesting, the Admiral murmured, studying the data. But also consistent with pack bonding behaviors observed in less developed species. What evidence suggests they would honor agreements with the Dominion? Marcus stepped forward, knowing that this might be humanity's only chance to speak for itself. Admiral, my people sent me to fight for their lives against an opponent I couldn't possibly defeat under normal circumstances. I didn't fight for glory or conquest, I fought to protect 300 miners and technicians who trusted me to stand between them and danger. And, now? Admiral Vexcorin asked. What would you fight for now? The question carried weight that Marcus could feel in his enhanced bones. This wasn't just about immediate survival anymore, it was about what kind of relationship humanity would have with this vast galactic civilization. Now I'd fight to prove that humanity deserves to be judged by our potential rather than our current limitations, Marcus said. We're young as spacefaring species go, but we're learning fast. Give us a chance to show what we can become as allies rather than enemies. Admiral Vexcorin's expression remained unreadable for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled, an expression that transformed his austere features. "Hunter Prime, it appears your assessment was correct. This species shows promise." His attention returned to Marcus. "Human, you have spoken well for your people. But, words are easily given. The approaching fleet includes Admiral Kethvarin of the 7th Squadron, a warrior who has never been defeated in formal combat. She will wish to test your capabilities personally." Marcus felt his enhanced metabolism shift into high alert. Another challenge, this one with apparently even higher stakes. "I accept," he said without hesitation. Admiral Vexcorin's smile widened. "Excellent. But, this encounter will be different from your fight with Hunter Prime Velthanes. Admiral Kethvarin fights to kill, and she has never shown mercy to an opponent she deems unworthy of life." The holographic connection terminated, leaving Marcus alone with Kalara and her crew. The weight of what was coming pressed down on him like the gravity of a neutron star. "Well," Kalara said quietly, "it appears your trials are far from over." The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a constellation of predatory stars, their hulls gleaming with the same organic architecture as Kalara's vessel but, on a scale that dwarfed anything in human experience. Marcus watched through the observation deck's transparent aluminum as ships the size of cities took up positions around the mining station. 43 vessels, reported Navigation Officer Thialkes, his voice tight with tension. Admiral Kethvarin's flagship is the largest, a Devastator-class battlecruiser with enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Kalara stood beside Marcus, her violet eyes reflecting the fleet's running lights. "The Admiral is making a statement. This level of force projection suggests she views humanity as either a significant threat or a potential asset worth protecting." Marcus's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle changes in the ship's operational sounds as they received new communication protocols from the fleet. His improved reflexes had been keeping him in a state of controlled readiness since Admiral Vexcorin's warning, and now that state intensified to combat alertness. "Tell me about this Admiral Kethvarin," Marcus said, his voice carrying the focused calm of someone preparing for battle. Dr. Thyran, who had been monitoring the tactical displays, looked up with obvious concern. "She is legend among our warrior caste. 70 cycles of combat experience, victories against the Void Stalkers of Arcturus, the Hive Queens of the Centauri Nebula, and the Machine Lords of the Steel Worlds. She has personally killed over 300 enemies in single combat." 300? Marcus felt his enhanced metabolism shift another level higher. "How is that possible?" "She challenges the champions of every species the Dominion encounters," Kalara explained. "It is her way of measuring their worth. Those who prove worthy become allies. Those who do not." She left the sentence unfinished. A soft chime announced an incoming communication. The main display activated, revealing a bridge that made Admiral Vexcorin's vessel look modest by comparison. The figure that appeared was clearly female but built on an even more imposing scale than Kalara. Admiral Kethvarin stood nearly 8 feet tall, her silver hair woven with what appeared to be trophy braids from defeated opponents. Scars crisscrossed her pale blue skin like a roadmap of victory and violence. "Hunter Prime Velthanes," Admiral Kethvarin's voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets across the galaxy. "I have reviewed your reports regarding this human species. Your conclusions are optimistic." Kalara straightened to full military attention. "Admiral, the human warrior exceeded all combat projections. His capabilities and character suggest his species possesses untapped potential." "Potential," Admiral Kethvarin repeated, her luminous eyes finding Marcus through the display. "I have encountered 17 species with potential over the past decade. 14 of them disappointed me greatly." Marcus stepped forward, knowing that this conversation would determine not just his fate but the future of human-alien relations. "Admiral, with respect, we don't claim to be the strongest or most advanced species in the galaxy. But we're willing to learn, to grow, and to stand by our allies when it matters." The Admiral's laugh was like breaking glass mixed with grinding metal. "Brave words, little human. But I have heard brave words before. The Mantrid collective spoke beautifully of honor and alliance right up until their champion began weeping for mercy. She activated additional displays showing tactical recordings of previous encounters. Marcus watched with growing unease as alien warriors were systematically destroyed by the towering admiral, their various combat techniques proving inadequate against her overwhelming skill and experience. Each of these champions believed their species was special, Admiral Kethvaren continued. Each discovered the price of arrogance in my combat arena. Will you prove different, human Marcus Webb? Marcus studied the tactical recordings, his enhanced intellect processing movement patterns and combat techniques at superhuman speed. Admiral Kethvaren fought with a fluid combination of styles that suggested she had absorbed and perfected techniques from every opponent she had faced. I don't know if I'll prove different, Marcus replied honestly. But I know I'll give you the best fight I'm capable of. Honesty, the Admiral mused. How refreshing. Very well, human. In 1 hour, you will transport to my flagship for formal combat evaluation. Standard terms, fight until one yields or dies. Do you accept? Marcus felt the weight of 300 human lives pressing down on his shoulders. Behind him, he sensed Kalara's tension as she waited for his answer. The decision would commit humanity to a path that could lead to alliance or annihilation. I accept, Marcus said simply. Admiral Kethvaren's expression shifted to something that might have been anticipation. Excellent. I confess curiosity about these genetic enhancements that so impressed Hunter Prime Velthanes. Perhaps your species will provide a more interesting challenge than recent encounters. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the growing realization that he was about to face an opponent who made Kalara look like a novice. The psychological modifications that had limited his capabilities were continuing to break down under stress, but would his true enhanced potential be enough against a warrior with 70 cycles of experience? Marcus, Kalara said quietly, there is something you should know about Admiral Kethvaren's combat preferences. Marcus turned to face her, noting the concern in her violet eyes. What kind of something? She does not simply defeat opponents, she studies them. Each combat encounter becomes a learning experience that makes her more dangerous to future adversaries. By the time your fight ends, she will know everything about human combat capabilities. The implication was clear. Even if Marcus somehow survived the encounter, Admiral Kethvaren would possess complete tactical knowledge about enhanced human abilities. Future conflicts would be catastrophically one-sided. Then, I'll have to make sure she learns something useful, Marcus replied, his enhanced mind already beginning to formulate plans that went far beyond simple survival. Dr. Thyran approached with a medical scanner, conducting final checks on Marcus's enhanced physiology. Your neurological patterns show continued breakdown of the psychological inhibitors. Combat stress is accelerating the process significantly. Will I still be myself when this is over? Marcus asked. You will be more yourself than you have been in years, Dr. Thyran replied. The modifications your people imposed were artificial constraints on your natural personality. As they break down, you will experience a return to your unmodified psychological state. Kalara's expression showed understanding. The warrior you were meant to be, before your military leaders decided to make you controllable. The next hour passed in intensive preparation. Marcus reviewed everything they knew about Admiral Kethvaren's combat techniques, studied the tactical recordings until he could predict her likely opening moves, and underwent final physical conditioning to optimize his enhanced capabilities. But, even as his body prepared for combat, his mind was working on a larger problem. This fight wasn't really about proving human worth, it was about establishing the foundation for a relationship between species. Win or lose, the encounter would determine how the Dominion viewed humanity for generations to come. The shuttle trip to Admiral Kethvaren's flagship was a journey through a cathedral of military engineering. The Devastator-class battlecruiser stretched for kilometers in every direction, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of a technology base far beyond human understanding. The docking bay could have held a dozen mining stations, with atmospheric containment fields that eliminated the need for traditional bay doors. As Marcus's shuttle settled onto the designated pad, he found himself surrounded by crew members representing species he had never imagined. Tall, crystalline beings moved with geometric precision. Flowing entities that might have been living energy-directed construction work with thought alone. Insectoid creatures whose chitinous armor gleamed like polished steel coordinated logistics with hive-mind efficiency. The Dominion is vast, explained Commander Yevselis, who had been assigned as Marcus's escort. Over 400 member species contribute to our collective strength. Each brings unique capabilities that enhance the whole. The walk through the ship's corridors was a lesson in galactic diversity. Marcus passed recreational areas where aquatic species swam through three-dimensional currents, training facilities where gravity was adjusted for beings from high-mass worlds, and meditation chambers where energy-based entities communed with forces beyond physical matter. All of these species were evaluated through combat trials? Marcus asked. Commander Yevselis nodded. Admiral Kefbaron has personally tested the champions of 93 different species over her career. Those who proved worthy joined the Dominion. Those who did not. He gestured toward a memorial wall covered with what appeared to be trophy weapons from fallen opponents. The arena that housed Admiral Kefbaron's combat trials was a massive amphitheater that could have held 50,000 spectators. The fighting space itself was a perfect circle 100 meters across, with environmental controls that could simulate any planetary condition. Admiral Kefbaron stood at the arena's center, no longer wearing the formal robes of command. Her combat attire revealed the full extent of her imposing physiology, 8 feet of muscle and bone honed by 70 cycles of warfare, covered in scars that told the story of countless victories. So, human, she called as Marcus approached, are you prepared to die for the honor of your species? Marcus entered the arena, feeling the weight of artificial gravity that had been adjusted to galactic standard, heavier than Earth normal but not crushing for his enhanced physiology. Around them, the stands filled with representatives from dozens of species, all come to witness the evaluation of humanity's worth. I'm prepared to fight, Marcus replied, falling into a ready stance that incorporated everything he had learned from his encounter with Kalara. Death is just one possible outcome. Admiral Kefbaron's laugh echoed through the vast space. Confidence. I appreciate that in an opponent. She began moving through a warm-up routine that showcased the deadly flexibility of her enhanced form. Tell me, human, what makes your species believe it deserves alliance with the Dominion? Marcus considered the question as he began his own preparation ritual. Around them, the alien audience watched with the intensity of beings who understood that they were witnessing a moment of historical significance. We don't know if we deserve it, Marcus said honestly. But we